Well, happy signing day, and excited, for the 12 young men that have joined the Wolfpack. And other than one addition here on signing day, there weren't any surprises, but very excited about the group. I guess you would say with our COVID numbers that we have now with the super seniors and how that's impacted recruiting, purposely, this was a smaller class. We just didn't have as many spots. With that being said, it's the highest average ranking in school history based on individual player rankings per signee. So I guess you'd say quality over quantity if you were going to rank our class. Things that excite me, we met the needs we had. We led the state. Out of all the ACC schools, there was 23 in-state signees in our conference, and we had the most. Of all the schools, all 14 schools in the ACC, we had 7. The next school had 6, and then 5, and then 4. So, feel good that we continue to take care of our own more than anybody in the state. And that's something I've said I would do 9 years ago and have lived up to my end, and will continue to do that. There's 7 of these young men that were in the playoffs, one of them that was in the state championship game, and added 2 more brothers to the family with Isaiah Crowell and Rylan Van joining Micah and Davin. I think that's cool, when you have that. To me, that's the greatest thing you can tell a recruit, when you have a number of players' parents who have allowed one of their sons to come here and then sent their second son, and in some cases a third. I think that says a lot about the culture that we've created here. As a parent myself, I surely would take a lot of, perspective if one of my sons was at a school and then I had a chance to send my second son to the same school, to the same coach. And to do that multiple times, I think shows a lot about our coaching staff, about our culture, about our university. So, proud of those guys, and great to have all of them send their stuff in early this morning. There was no drama, and we were able to get out to bowl practice on time. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Waiting on hands. Anyone have a question? Alec.
Yeah, Dave, you mentioned the one addition today with Jacarius Peak. Just what does he, add to this class and bring to this program?
Well, we needed to continue to add offensive tackles to our depth chart. And Jacarius is a very athletic young man. He's a long wingspan, tall kid that plays basketball, shot and disc, multiple sport athlete that we feel has tremendous upside. Is a hard worker, comes from a great program in Valdosta, and was a good fit for what we do. He's very athletic, offensive lineman with a long wingspan, and obviously, having what we've had here at tackle, and we're going to have Spees and Tim McKay back. It's obviously a year we're going to lose Icky, and just have to get some guys in the program that we can develop, and feel like he's one of those guys, and just have a chance to work with a young man that has his pedigree and ability. We found him somewhat late, and Coach Garrison did a really good job recruiting him, building a relationship with him, and getting him up here on a visit unofficially, and then officially getting his family involved so they could see, what we have to offer. So I think it was a win-win. I know they were very happy leaving here on their visit, went and compared us to another school, and felt like this was the best fit.
Mike Topper.
Good afternoon, Coach. Nice to see you. Was wondering if I could ask you a bowl-centric question, and that is a 2-parter. 1, how's the health look on the defensive side of the ball for you guys? And 2, Icky's obviously being projected as a first-round pick. Do you expect him to play in a few weeks?
Defensively, we'll be healthier than we were in the last game. Devin Boykin's back with us now. So hope that we obviously have him. That was the one unexpected one. But outside of that, it's the same group that we've been playing with. There were several guys playing sick and beat up and all the above in that last game. We had a lot of guys with the flu. Like I told you, I think we're going to be in a much better place But the guys that were out for the season are still out. As far as Icky's been practicing with us. He's excited to go down to the bowl site with us and, get our 10th win.
Chapel.
Hey, Coach, I was wondering, can you just kind of reflect on some of the challenges from this cycle with the super long dead period, maybe how your staff adjusted to that and offset that over the summer?
Oh man, it's just the last year and a half. It's been hard. It's been a lot of virtual, just like you guys in your professions, except for in ours, we really rely on seeing these guys in person and, measuring different parts of, their measurables, as we call them, their wingspan, their hand size, and so on, seeing how they can bend in person, how they can run, change direction. And so it's been unique. I would tell you, I think we've succeeded. I think our staff, our recruiting staff deserves a lot of credit. I think Mercy Felez, who stepped in, was promoted into his role now as our general manager, has killed it. He's done a tremendous job, and his staff that we've assembled with him are really working well together. And I think they do a great job communicating with the recruits. They do a great job with the high school coaches of trying to get information that normally we would get on visits. And then once things opened back up, I mean, you can imagine how it was here in June when the dead period lifted. There was a flood of recruits coming through campus. And I wish we had 25 scholarships. When you have back-to-back years like we did, we could sign 25 guys easily. We just don't have that room with the number of players coming back. And I think that's a story for another time. I think that's kind of in some ways taken over the excitement of our football team, the run it back thing. And now we got fans even saying they're coming back. It's kind of funny seeing their messages. I love the guy that broke his leg, putting his stuff out there on social media. He's recommitted to the pack, so it's interesting times, man, but with recruiting, I think this is a really good class, and, I hope it just doesn't slip through because of the fact there's not 25 guys in it. There's 12 really good players.
Todd Gibson.
Yeah, Dave, can you give us some insight on Michael Allen, the Greenville Rose running back, what you saw in him and how you think he'll fit in your program here coming up soon?
Yeah, well, really talented young man. Easy to see as a runner why we like him. Powerful, quick, fast, good vision, good balance. But the things that he could do as a receiver, we really thought made him stand out. He can catch the football out of the backfield as well as run it. He's tough. He's got the body type to be able to hold up in protection, and the speed to be a return guy if we want to use him as a kickoff returner. And he's a multi-sport athlete, so he's a true competitor year round and comes from a winning program, great family, all of the above, and very mature. And with us having Ricky leave and Bam still undecided, felt like we needed to get maybe not as much of a developmental player at that position, someone that could come in and play a little earlier if need be. So I think he fits that. Obviously it'll come down to his mental part, which we feel good about, but until you get him on campus and see him react to the speed of the game, that's kind of the biggest unknown, I guess you'd say, with any recruit.
Jonas.
Coach, you often talk about having honest conversations with your players. With these recruits, were some of the guys concerned about, because so many guys coming back, were some of the guys concerned about maybe their timeline for getting on the field, maybe slow down a little bit? If you had a conversation about, hey, so many guys coming back, you may have to wait a little bit. Was that a conversation that was had?
Yeah, and it wasn't a conversation that was a negative. I think it's a positive. I think these guys, for example, the two linebackers we signed today, they're going to play with Isaiah Moore, Drake Thomas, Peyton Wilson, Levi. Like, they get some really good mentorship in that first year, and to me, that's a positive for a freshman coming in the door, is to have that kind of player in front of you to learn from. And they're not going to be here for 3 years. They're going to be here for 1, so I think that's part of the development. We talk about developing our players. I do look at this place as one of the best in the country at developing players. Part of it is taking advantage of the older players' wisdom when they're here, and I think our players do a really good job if you come to practice and watch them coach each other. of helping each other learn. And so that's something that I think is a positive, not a negative, when you talk about the experience that we have returning.
Matt,
Yeah, kind of a two-part question, but how much did the NCAA going back down to 85 limit present a challenge for you this year? And were you having to kind of figure out the numbers as you go? And the second part was, do you have any more space to potentially add onto the class?
Yeah, I mean, I think the NCAA has completely failed us as coaches with our roster management. I'm sure they thought it was a great idea during COVID to award everybody on the roster an extra year, and I can see why that happened. Personally, feel like the model we had last year that allowed our super seniors to not count in our 85 was the right model. To say that that's a one-year deal, but you awarded it to 5 years of players is not a good situation to be in as a football coach. You know, you're either recruiting fewer players, which means the future of your program's not the way you want it. You can't develop the guys the way you normally do with 20 to 25 guys a year, which hurts the high schools. I mean, the number of high schools I went into where players just don't have anywhere to go because of this rule, it's sad. You know, it's really sad. You know, and the second part of it is it increases, you know, the number of guys probably that want to stay. It changes, you know, our ability to predict attrition. Like, how many seniors do you have? 15. Okay, well, then you have 15 scholarships next year. That's not how it is. You know, so you're either going to slow down and recruit fewer guys, or you're going to end up with almost too many and maybe ask some kids to go. And I don't think that's a good thing either, you know? So I think the NCAA really screwed this one up. That's just my opinion. They probably don't care what my opinion is, you know, but I hope there's some relief at some point to help all these high school kids that have nowhere to go, and not just them, you know. I mean, they created a portal where all these guys can go where they want, and there's no scholarship space for anyone to take any of them. With regard to us taking more players, it just depends on attrition, Matt. Like, if we have attrition, then, you know, the portal obviously stays open until August, right? So if things happen between now and then and we can add, we will. If it doesn't, then we won't.
Todd Gibson.
Yeah, Dave, I think you might have touched on what you're just talking about there. Does the small class, though, hurt you down the road, possibly, you know, 3-4 years down the road, possibly?
It can, you know, I think it can. It's just probably puts you into more of a portal recruiting mode at some point, you know, to make up for lost players. Maybe not. I mean, I really think that there's going to be a lot of rule changes in the next 24 months because the recruiting has just changed completely than the way that our current rules are written, with the addition of the portal guys, and the calendar doesn't really meet their needs either. You know, I mean, they go into the portal after the season and then it's a dead period and they can't even visit anywhere, you know? So the whole thing needs to be relooked at. I've been told that that's what they're doing, is relooking at it. So, you know, maybe they'll allow us to recruit differently in the future and be able to use our scholarships differently. I'm not sure. But it definitely needs a tune-up, you know, based on just the evolution of the rules in college football.
David.
Hey, Dave, I'm just curious how much NIL was a topic of conversation with this current class, and if you guys felt like you were more prepared to answer those questions than previously.
Not as much as you would think, you know. It does come up some. It's not a point of contact for every conversation. I think it's talked about a lot in the media, in the small circles of recruiting, more about, you know, what our players currently have and, you know, how do they go about doing that, less about what can you give me, at least in our experience.
Chapel.
Yeah, Coach, of those 12 signees, do you know which ones are enrolling early yet? Do you have a full list?
Not yet. No, I mean, that will happen probably in the next week or so. Again, it's another rule that, you know, needs to be looked at, but, you know, you can only replace mid-year the ones you lose at mid-year. And so until I know exactly that number, we'll have to hold and wait.
Jonas.
Coach, you said with this group, it was a quality over quantity. Like, what's the best quality about these 12 guys as a as a unit coming in 2022?
Yeah, it's hard to answer that. I mean, I think this is based on how the recruiting people rank them, Jonas. So when I say they're the highest rated, that's based on 24/7 and Rivals and all those people that rate these recruits, right? So for what that's worth, it's the highest ranked class in school history. I think you guys know me well enough to know I care more about how they play and what their career looks like in 4 years than what I do their stars today. And so, the thing I'll tell you about this group, they're a very tight knit bunch of guys. They've all been committed except for one of them for most of the season. They've gotten to know each other. They're very mature, been in almost all their homes, come from really, really good backgrounds, families, coaching staffs. They understand us. We understand them. I think there's a very good bond in this group and with our staff in this group.
Casey.
Hi, Dave. You kind of just circled back around and touched on it right there. But when you talked about developing these players, maybe the roster isn't dotted with 5 stars, but it's noted that you've been able to develop these guys. How much pride do you personally take in your staff in being able to do that?
Well, it's the only way we're going to win. I think we have to be able to find guys that fit the measurables we want on the field and then be able to build them up. Find guys that have the work ethic and intangibles to be developed, because that takes a certain guy too. Find guys that fit hard, tough together, that are going to come in here and battle and compete and be a good teammate and be selfless. And so I'm very proud of our staff, our strength staff, what Thunder and his crew do. Justin Smith and our sports med team downstairs, Natalie Ford and our nutrition staff. We all work really, really good together. And I think that's the thing. There's really good synchronicity in our building. Everyone communicates well with each other. They understand each other. Mercy can sit in the room with me and Thunder and Ruff and Justin, and we go through the roster with Coach Trevathan and talk about these guys and where their needs are, or their measurables, how much weight they can gain, what's going on with their diet, anything and everything. What are their extra needs, and what are the reasons he's not developing, or if he's not, or this guy's really coming on, coach, you should see him. And so it's a good group of people that understand the vision, and they've all worked well with me and communicate well with me to help me take this program from the signing date to the finish line, which is, trying to get where we are in the league and the top 3 in the league.
JC.
Along those lines, coach, is Dejon Thompson kind of the epitome of what you just described?
Yeah, I mean, total upside guy, very long, fast, explosive player. I mean, Coach Gibson's raved about him as a contact player when watched him play in person. But a guy that's going to come in here probably 190 pounds, and if things go the way we plan on, he'll leave here 225 to 235, and he'll be flying around. He can really run, and so now it's just getting him into that college nutrition and college strength program and helping him put that weight on.
Jonas.
Yeah, Coach, you talked about Michael Allen earlier, his ability to catch the ball as well as run it and return it. When you watch him, do you see a Naheem clone, a guy who can come here and possibly play both positions full time before he leaves?
Not really. Similar ball skills out of the backfield, Jonas. Naheem was different. Naheem was a guy that was built like a wideout too. He could play in the slot, body type wise. Was 175 to 185, left at 195-ish. Michael Allen's going to end up being a 215 to 220 pound running back. It's just a different body type, but he does have really good ball skills. So as you saw with Ricky this year, Ricky caught a lot of passes for us. Matt Days caught a lot of passes for us when he was here back in the day. It's a position that we like to throw the ball to if they have that skill set.
Matt.
Yeah, can you kind of talk about your quarterback recruit, MJ Morris? What stood out about him? What you guys liked about him?
Yeah, MJ did a great job throwing the football in our camp. Tremendous athlete. He's a winner, state champion and then state semifinalist. This year at 2 different schools, 2-sport athlete, going to try to play baseball here as well for Coach Avent. So, really good competitor, great family. And just, the way he carries himself, he's just got one of those kind of demeanors. You like being around the guy. He's a guy that you would gravitate to as a player, So, and he brings a, different dynamic athletically probably to the position than we've had in a while. I mean, he can really run, so it gives us a true dual threat guy back there.
Does anyone else have anything? All right. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
Coach. Appreciate it.